Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Amps. And hold the presses, I've been robbed! Completely robbed! Robbed blind! I don't know what kind of scam these outfitters here are running. Now let me explain. Came across last time, and I did a video on it, the previous video, on a Blackstar ht5r. Okay, now that's an older amp head, only 5 watt, right? And, well, it wasn't long before I started playing it, and all of a sudden, sometimes the volume would drop out. What? Freaking broken amp? What a scam! And I mean, I paid top dollar. Damn. Okay. So, it was kind of weird because it would kind of cut out and then come back. Right? Sometimes I'd have to hit the standby switch. So something was wrong, and I was quite afraid that, it's some kind of heating issue or something. Well, no. It's kind of what I expected in a way. And that is, I believed that the power tube was going bad. Oh no. Another $200 in tubes? Just great. But no. Good deal. This particular amp takes a tube made by Electro-Harmonics for some reason. Right? And it's a little odd power tube. The 12 BH7. Now, what kind of tube is that? Right? I guess within the tube, it actually has 2 power ratings. And I was horrified to find out that it was about $20. $20 for a power tube. And who knows, maybe it'll make the amp sound better, more reliable. I think it was worth a gamble. So I said, look, for $20, if anything, just to satisfy my curiosity, right, I went ahead and ordered it. And it arrived here, and we're going to have a pseudo unboxing. Because believe you me, the second I got this thing, right, I installed it in the amp. I wanted to know. And I figured, look, for $20, you know, if it didn't fix the issue, at least it's a new tube that'll last in the amp, you know. So here we go, pseudo unboxing real quick. There it is. Wow. Wrapped in paper. And these guys are just great, man. If you haven't ordered tubes before and you need to, I recommend Tube Depot. Right? Super great. And never once have they sent me the wrong tube or a broken tube or anything. So super great. Now, second thing is I thought, oh, well, I'll just, pop out the old one, pop in the new one. Ha ha! Fat chance! Scammed again! Scammed again! Scammed again! Okay? Not only did I have to take off the back grill, right, which was kind of a pain, not really. But on top of that, I had to take the chassis out of the amp head. In other words, the entire amp has to come out of the box, really, to install the power tube correctly. Yeah, not a big deal. There's a few screws, you know. And, of course, we're talking about the Blackstar ht5r. So here it is, along with Mitty's backside. Excuse me, Mitty! Okay, so anyway, there's a little Blackstar ht5r, and it's in standby mode right now. It seems that Mitty has taken a liking to the Blackstar. Now listen, the problem that was developing with the volume dropping out is unacceptable, right? And if that's the case, you know, well, I'd have to return it immediately, you know, but I'd had to know, was it a tube issue? And I'm pleased to announce that, yes, it was a tube issue. And since then, no volume dropouts. It solved the issue. And not only that, it made the amp sound a little better. Not so much louder, you know, I'd say about the same, but more, I don't know how to say it, more firm, if you like, and more reliable, you know. And now here I've got it plugged into just a little Vox 112, and it's a little tiny thing, right? Super small, probably the smallest cabinet I have, really. But it has a Celestium greenback in it, and it's actually pretty darn good. I'm starting to really like the greenback speaker. Anyway, let's take a listen to it. Alright, so this is with the new power tube, and I do notice, actually, it is a little loud. So, pretty nice. And I'll tell you what, this particular one, very interesting little amp head, and I found that a lot of times the chords sound kind of almost like piano chords, you know. Now I've got the volume at about halfway up. And after that, it starts to distort, really. You know? So, at some point, maybe switch out the preamp tube, you know, to an AY7 AX7, which has the full, you know, where it can distort pretty easily. guess I should, but... Alright. So anyway, I'm really, really pleased now. There you go. That's okay. So anyway, okay, so there you go. Here's the old tube. So it kind of looks like that. That's a power tube there, if you can believe it. Right. Now I did one bad thing, I guess, is when I pull out the old one, I bent all the pins here. Which is fine with me because the tube is bad, basically. I don't know what's wrong with it. It just kind of drops out. I don't know if there's a crack on it. If you ask me, it's probably just old, you know. Sorry. So there you go. So that made all the difference. I'll tell you what. I mean, I was about to return this amp, you know. And now that I think of it, it actually... No, the power amp made a huge difference, actually. A lot louder, the way that I would hoped. I mean, you know, remember, we're talking 5 watts. But I'll tell you what, it gets pretty darn loud, even on the clean channel. You know? So very pleased. Granted, I had to spend $20. and wait a couple days for it, but it was well worth it. Now, see, it makes a difference. To be sure, it's just more solid. It is a little louder, you know, and a firmer sound. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that the little ht5r, it only has 2 tubes to begin with. A little preamp tube and a power amp tube. And I figure the preamp tube's still good. It's a JJ, I noticed. And then the Electro Harmonics power tube. Now listen, on a comparable tube amp, well, those tubes can get very expensive to replace. You know? Now granted, they usually have more power than 5 watts. But nonetheless, instead of $20, I could have spent $200 on a set of tubes, you know? That kind of sucks. Anyway, let me just tell you, for me, you know, I really don't care if it's solid state or if it's tube. If it has the right sound that I really like, and also the feel is very important. You know? And that's the problem with solid state amps. You know, for me, the feel's just not quite right, and I'm always feeling that solid state power amp, you know, and that's why, you know, so they call the Blackstar kind of a hybrid, but to me it's absolutely a tube amp, you know, with the preamp and power amp, and they're not just for show, you know, I mean, changing out the tubes and so on, just like a normal tube amp, you know. Anyway, at least for me, because I use a clean channel most of the time. So very, very pleased. No dropouts. Yeah, because once I'd be playing and be like, wait, I think it stopped working, and then would come back on for a little, very intermittent, you know. And it was just a power tube, you know. I remember this was a used head, you know. So obviously they're not going to pop in a brand new set of tubes, right, before they sell it to you. You know. And I got lucky in this case because it was just, you know, $20. And now, you know, that amp power tube should last a really long time, you know. I mean, it could be 6 months to a year before it needs to be replaced again, hopefully. So I just want to share that with you, the update here. And I guess that's something that, you know, I'd never considered before, really, and I wish I had, is when you buy a tube amp, right, see what kind of tubes it has, first of all, and how many tubes it has, right, and what it's going to cost you to replace those tubes, because they're not going to last forever. You know, now for some people, you know, tubes will last 2 to 3 years, so $200 investment's not bad at all. But it's kind of like you get a bill in the mail, you know, you got to pay it. Well, the tube, replacing a tube is kind of like that. It's kind of unexpected. I'm like, oh man, you know, so you got to pay for that. But if the tube is $20, you know, for a whole new power tube, and that's all it needs, that's great. And let me tell you something. I tried to replace the tube without pulling the chassis out, right? And I was able to do that with a preamp tube, you know. Just slide in there and pop it in. But with a power amp tube, man, I'm not taking that chance of bending the pins. And I see they can bend the pins, right, to get it into the socket I wanted to be sure, right? Because if not, if you have to order another one, and you have to wait for it on top of that, and it's another $20 down the drain, that brings you up to $40. Ouch. Right? So it was worth it to pull the chassis, and it was pretty simple, quite frankly. I mean, as far as I know, it's just 4 screws on the bottom that holds it, and then you got to pull the grill too. So that's another 4 screws or whatever. I'll tell you what, these are built really nicely, actually, I found. And while I was in there, I checked, because these, they have these heat sinks, right? And on some of them, especially older ones, you see burn marks on the PCB board. Bad. And so this one was actually looked really good. So there you go. Alright, very good. See you next time.